This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
My countrymen and my friends, I had hoped against hope that some miracle would prevent a devastating war and bring to an end the invasion.
This most serious threat World Wrestling Federation has ever known.
The long-term future of sports entertainment could change forever.
A succession of actual wars have shaken the entire world and have threatened to bring on the gigantic conflict, which is today, unhappily, a fact.
No force of nature and no act of God could stop this invasion from happening.
I have said not once but many times that I have seen war and that I hate war.
This is our last chance.
There's no going back. There is no tomorrow. They want to finish us all.
Feel this moment for the rest of your life.
This war is only half over, and it could damn well be lost.
We're laying it all on the line.
Nothing can stop the WCW and ECW.
Austin is going to lead us into invasion.
Lift up your heart. All will come right.
We will kick WCW and ECW's.
No WWF superstar is going to deny us from our destiny.
Dad, the sports entertainment.
I have seen war and I hate war.
Nation, welcome back to another episode of Nation Invasion. I am your host, James Gruenberg, and we are on our way to No Mercy 2001. Stone Cold has been yet to be found here tonight, and ever since losing to Kurt Angle at Unforgiven, he is nowhere in sight. The Rock is still the WCW champion, and Kurt Angle is still the WWF champion. But I am not alone. As always, I have a guest with me here tonight, and that is Mr. Jeremy Nichols. Jeremy, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate the opportunity to come on the show, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We get some good episodes here tonight.
Yes, we do. And Jeremy, you're a member of the Place to Be Nation. You have podcasts. You listen to podcasts. What was your fandom of pro wrestling at this time frame in the year 2001? Were you watching the Raws and SmackDowns during the invasion angle?
I was watching Raw and the pay-per-views, and the funny thing about SmackDown is, and the younger audience may not know this, but they were on UPN initially, and I'm in the Midwest. I'm in Missouri, just outside of St. Louis, and we didn't get UPN on our local cable stations, and it wasn't a national-wide channel at that point yet. And my friend had a satellite dish, and he still couldn't get it. The only way he could get SmackDown, and this is true because he showed me, I watched him do it, he would go to the channel because it appeared on the satellite box, and he would press select, and it would say unavailable to call customer service. So he called with me standing there because I didn't believe him. They wanted, or I'm sorry, they didn't want, they had to come out and put a second dish in for him to get UPN. And, of course, they're going to have to charge him for the second dish just to get the one channel. So I didn't get to see SmackDown until 2004 when that finally went national. That's when I finally got to see SmackDown. But I kept up with SmackDown via the internet because I was all over AOL at the time. I'm sure you remember all the chat rooms they had back then, and I think NoDQ.com was going around that time, and then also just reading about it from various sources and things like that. So I kept up with it, but unfortunately I didn't get to watch it every week. But thankfully, with the Observer out there and all the other sites, it was pretty easy to keep up with it. It kind of sucked because they didn't have YouTube back then. So you could, if there's a good match, you really didn't get to see it, unless they played clips on Raw or something like that. But that was where I was at. And I was heavily into the WWE at the time. And I think I attended, or no, I didn't attend No Mercy that year. It came to St. Louis, but I didn't get to see it, unfortunately. It was the following year that I got to go back. But that was where I was at. I didn't get to see SmackDown, but I got to see a lot of Raw.
I'm surprised. Like at the, you think like everybody has like all the channels, and I was talking with Ben Locke. They had Sky Sports 1, and they had Monday Night Raw on like a different, like different times. Like it'd be like around, like, I don't know, maybe like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
If it was like 9 o'clock at night, if Raw was like 9 o'clock at night and stuff like that too. So
see, they got lucky because even though they played it at 2 or 3 in the morning, they got all their pay-per-views for free until like 2012 or something like that. So you stay up late, but you get the pay-per-views absolutely free on Sky Sports at the time. So they were kind of lucky in that respect.
Yeah, it's weird that not a lot of people, that not everybody had UPN.
Yeah. Do you remember, obviously, you remember Shotgun Saturday Night, right?
Not, my fandom came at like the end of Shotgun Saturday Night. Not even close. Like I knew it was on, but I didn't really watch it. I'm a little bit younger than you are. I was watching around 2000 and into 2001.
We didn't get to see Shotgun for the first, I think it was like 6 months it was on. By the time it finally went everywhere, it had stopped being in like nightclubs and stuff, and was just another Arena C show, So it's like we heard about it on Raw, and I can remember being like, God, I want to see this. And then by the time I got to see it, it's just a third-rate show with, mid-card jobbers. I'm like, oh man. So nowadays you don't have to worry. You can see everything. But back in the day, there were certain shows that a lot of us just didn't get to see,
Yeah, and Jeremy, were you a WCW watcher? Like, did you watch Nitros and Thunders?
Yeah, I was one of the guys. I had initially watched, I had stopped watching WWF for almost all of 97 because I was heavily into staying in the NWO. And then by the time Austin skyrocketed, that's when and I always knew what was going on Raw. I always knew. But I was one of those guys, I'd flip back and forth during the commercials, and whatever was on, I'd watch and then flip back and forth. And the great thing about Nitro back in the day was they would play it again, like 2 hours after it went off the air. Like 2 hours later, if you stayed up, you could watch a full replay of it. Thunder, I didn't keep up with as heavily because it wasn't really that great. But yeah, I was one of those guys that flipped back and forth. The only thing I didn't get to see at the time was ECW. That didn't make it to me until like 2000. I think it was 2000, and it was on its last legs by then. But yeah, I was heavily into Raw and Nitro.
And did you watch the last Nitro live?
No, I watched the Raw because by then I had stopped watching Nitro. I'll tell you the exact episode when they said Foley was going to win the title. I never went back.
Oh, January 4th, huh? You were one of those guys.
I remember that night I was watching Nitro, and Tony Schiavone said it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I swear to God, true story. I ran up the street about 10 houses down to my buddy Tyler's house, and he was watching Raw, and I'm like, dude, Mick Foley's going to win the title tonight. Mankind's winning the belt. He was like, no, he's not. We didn't know it was taped back then. I was like, they just said it on WCW, and I sat there and we watched it. Sure as shit, he won the belt. I never went back. I heard everything that happened, never went back.
Yeah, that's insane. It was like, well, I don't want to go back to watching WCW. That's it. Yeah, I was going to say, I guess you didn't watch the finger poke of doom after Foley won the title.
I heard about that, and I was like, you got to be shitting me. And then when Vince came out, and they made the announcement of buying WCW, because the story had just broke on like a Friday or Saturday, and I hadn't seen it yet. And then Monday Raw comes on, and I'm like, holy shit, he bought WCW. That's great. This is over. Because I was hyped for WrestleMania 17 was coming up the next Sunday, so I was ready for that. So it kind of surprised me. Before we get started, I'll tell you one very, very quick story. I was at the first Hell in a Cell in St. Louis when Kane debuted. I was right behind the hard camera. Oh my gosh,
you were at Bad Blood 97, huh?
Yeah, I was right behind the hard camera, and when I'm telling you, if you've never seen a Hell in a Cell live, and this is back when it was smaller, that thing is ginormous. it's intimidating as a fan just to see it hanging, and then when they lower it, incredibly intimidating. When Kane came out, the place went bananas. Bananas. And what they didn't show you on the pay-per-view was after it was all over, the Undertaker tombstone Chyna. She came back out, and he tombstoned her in the middle of the ring and left her laying to send the crowd home happy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're off of Unforgiven 2001. Like I said, Stone Cold has failed to appear and show his face for the Alliance. So Shane McMahon is sort of running things in Stone Cold's absence, and so is Rob Van Dam. He's going to get a little bit of a heavy push in the upcoming weeks here. And Kurt Angle still has the WWF title, and The Rock has the WCW title. So no WCW superstar has the WCW title. It's insane.
I don't. What I also thought was funny watching is that the Dudleys have the WWF tag titles, and Booker T and Test have the WCW tag team titles. So like both tag champions are with the Alliance,
Yeah.
but they don't have their world title.
No. Which I think is interesting that at least Booker T has something. He's a WCW champion again. He a WCW tag team champion again. That was like what his mainstay was for a long time. A WCW tag champion.
He was what, like a 9 or a 10-time tag champion, I think.
Yes.
Or it might have been even more than that.
It might have been 11 time here, or this is like his 10th and final.
Yeah. I loved him in Harlem Heat and WCW. I thought he was great. And like you could tell he was gonna be good. You know, he's one of them guys, very few that is great in tag team, great singles, great heel, great babyface. I mean, he could do it all. He'd be serious and be funny. And you don't get that too often.
Yep. Well, without further ado, let's deep dive into our Raw here. This is Raw October 1st. We are live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We have a recap of SmackDown before we start. The Dudley Boys laid waste to Kurt Angle and The Rock for the WWF titles. This is when Booker T and Tess win the WCW titles from The Undertaker and Kane. And then they later come out and they lay waste to Kurt Angle and The Rock, and the Dudleys get the last laugh when they put them through the tables as well. So that's the recap. Kurt Angle comes out. Kurt says he has unfinished business with the Dudley Boys. Says Stone Cold is not going to show up tonight. Angle asks why Austin isn't going to show up tonight. Kurt calls Austin out. He says, Austin, you're a coward. You're this and that. But then The Rock comes out. The Rock challenges the Dudley Boys as well. Shane McMahon comes out to the ring. Shane says tonight The Rock will face the Dudleys in a handicap table match for the WCW title. And then Shane says Kurt cannot interfere. Kurt Angle says Stone Cold is a giant strudel, and Shane has no strudel. Then Shane challenges Kurt Angle to a WWF title match. Kurt Angle accepts. So it's interesting that the WWF title is in the WWF, and yet Shane McMahon is like making demands, and it's like Regal cannot do a thing. It's like, I might be commissioner, but I'm just gonna let Shane McMahon do all the negotiating here. What did you think of this whole segment, Jeremy?
Was it The Rock called them diarrhea Dudleys, and then Angle said Angle accepted the match, and he says we'll find out if Shane has a strudel or a Twinkie.
Yeah.
I thought this was good. I mean, you got a good back and forth with The Rock and Angle, who called Austin a horse's ass, and we know Heyman's got a fax machine. They showed that right before Angle came out. And I do want to point out that Shane says that The Rock only has to put one Dudley through a table. You would think him being, a heel, he would be like, you got to put both Dudleys to the table. But they threw that in there, and I don't know I don't think they mention it throughout the rest of the night until the match that he's only got to do it to one, because that was potentially I'm not going to spoil anything, potentially going to be the saving grace for The Rock, be the one little advantage he might have.
Yep. I didn't know that. I didn't pick up on that either. So that is a good point. The Rock only has to put one Dudley boy through a table. But Kurt accepts Shane McMahon's challenge. The Dudley boys come out. They attack The Rock and Kurt Angle. Shane beats down on Kurt. Bubba power bombs Kurt Angle through a table, and then the Dudley Boys give Rock a 3D. So the Dudley Boys and Shane McMahon strike down again on the both world champions here, Jeremy.
Really making the Dudleys look, and rightfully so, they are the WWF Tag Team Champions. So it stands to reason that they would be better in a 2-on-2 situation than The Rock and Angle would be. And it makes them look strong, makes them look like a threat, especially with the two matches for later on tonight. You know, if these guys had if the Dudleys had just gotten their beat down then, you wouldn't care. You know, you'd be like, the rest of the matches are going to be stupid. But it was a smart move to put them over like this and make them look strong.
Yeah. So, The Rock and Kurt Angle are laid waste again. And like you said, Paul Heyman has a fax machine. He's claiming that he gets faxes from Stone Cold. He's going to be getting faxes throughout the whole night. Paul says Stone Cold is not embarrassed or ashamed after losing to Kurt Angle. And you can see, like, the audience behind Paul was being hilarious. Like, like this lady's just mimicking Paul. It looked like the lady was kind of like staring at his ass a little bit. I was like, what is this woman doing?
I like the idea that Austin is sitting by a fax machine. The Texas Rattlesnake, the toughest SOB, drinks beer all the time. He's sitting by a fax machine and frantically writing out faxes to send them to Paul Heyman throughout the night.
Yeah, well, Paul E. and Stone Cold were boys back in ECW.
I also, it gave me flashbacks to the Raw GM era where, Paul Heyman would get up, excuse me, and like, oh my God, it reminds me of the anonymous GM crap where the computer would go off, and I thought this might be a long show because of that. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully they do it better than they did, 10, 12 years ago or years later. But, oh man, this is giving me PTSD flashbacks, I swear.
Mm-hmm. So now we have a European title match. Is Spike Dudley versus the Hurricane for the European title. Clothesline by Spike, neckbreaker by Hurricane, neckbreaker by Spike, crossbody to Mike Awesome by Spike. So Mike Awesome interferes because they had a match on Heat where Spike Dudley beat Mike Awesome. And I thought this is actually the return match between Spike Dudley and Mike Awesome here tonight, but it's not. It's versus the Hurricane. Mike stops Spike Dudley from doing the Dudley Dog and a neckbreaker for the win by the Hurricane. I didn't know if he beat him by the eye of the Hurricane. I just went with the neckbreaker by the Hurricane. But the Hurricane retains his European title. I gave it a 1.25. It was all right, but a little weird to have Mike Awesome come out and like not a whole lot between Spike and Hurricane here. So I want to 1.25, Jeremy.
I was kind of like you. I was like, why isn't this Spike versus Awesome for a rematch? Like it did to me. It at first it didn't make sense, and then some of my notes like, what was Spike wearing here? I'm like, what are you doing? And then JR explained it always dressed like the Big Show. I'm like, that's even dumber. The TKO by the Hurricane into a knee was awesome. I was like, holy crap, man, I've not seen that. I've seen a TKO, but not into a knee. He essentially did a TKO into like a go to sleep. And I think you're right. He didn't win with the Eye of the Hurricane. It was just a neck breaker. Awesome. I don't think it's a shock that he was wasted by WCW and WWF. I think ECW was the only ones that knew how to use Mike Awesome. I was glad he was on TV. I gave it a 1 out of 5. I didn't think it was offensive. It was a simple match. It only went 2:15, so it didn't slog on or anything like that. Hurricane getting a win makes sense. He is the champion, and he did get not a clean win, but a solid win. He didn't get a count out or DQ or anything. So I thought that worked. And They explained it in the aftermath, why Hurricane was fighting with Spike. It's because he essentially took Molly Holly, which was Spike's girlfriend, which,
Yep.
They're going to cover that, and I'll let you cover that. But that, to me, now it makes sense when you see the aftermath. But prior to that, it don't make no sense.
Yeah, I definitely thought that this was the return, actually, where, I thought Spike beat Mike again on Raw, and then they do the reveal, but it's actually the Hurricane, fighting Spike. And I was like, oh, okay. I really thought they were continuing this Mike Awesome thing, but they'll continue it on SmackDown later. For now, we have the Hurricane. He is in the parking lot. He reveals the new Hurricycle. And he has a surprise for Spike Dudley, as Molly Holly is his new sidekick. So Molly Holly has turned on Spike and has joined the Hurricane.
What's up with that?
What is up with that? This whole Spike and Molly relationship was always on and off. They were on one week and then they were off. And then it's they're off for a whole month almost. And it's oh, we're back. It's where have you been?
Yeah, unless they did something on Heat that we didn't get to see. I mean, it didn't. Why would you care? Because you didn't. It's not like they had a bunch of segments together where you're watching them go out or anything like that. And they didn't seem to have any problems when they were on screen. And then Hurricane shows up and Molly's like, okay, and just it just takes off. But I will point out, she didn't get her name here. That's not until SmackDown that she gets her name. But here she's still just Molly Holly. But I love that Hurricycle. That was great.
Yeah, and I think she said it for the first time. Holy sidekick, Hurricane.
Yeah. And the Big Show looked so goofy at WWF New York. They showed him trying to help Spike. It's okay. And oh man, that's messed up. He just got his girlfriend stolen, and you're not even there. Had you been there, maybe Mike Awesome wouldn't have been able to stop him, and Spike could have won the European title. But they're such good buddies,
Yep. Big Show is at WWF New York, like you said, and he's still Spike's friend. Why did they make Big Show look like a summer tourist that came over from a different country? I like WWF New York. This is, I don't think Big Show picked this outfit out by himself.
No, there's no way. This is just another one in the long list of outfits and costumes they would make this man, this large behemoth of a man who should have always been treated seriously, is just broken down. We'd get to the worst stuff, was that Baby New Year they make him dress up as, but this is just a long line, and he looks like a goof, man. They took Paul White, the Big Show, and made him look like a goof. I mean, he's geek.
Yeah, so we have a 6-man tag, but actually before I get there, he's still Spike's friend, and he's going to take Spike out on the town after SmackDown too. I wonder how that's going to go.
Oh. I wish they would have cameras. Maybe they do, because maybe they show it next week on Raw. But I hope they have cameras that show just what Big Show took Spike. I'd like to see that. I want to see where they went.
Yeah. So now we have Booker T, Tess, and RVD versus Undertaker, Kane, and Chris Jericho. But before we get there, Paul gets another fax. The Alliance guys are in the ring. Paul reads, Austin is the best superstar. He congratulates Tess and Booker T for being the WCW Tag Team Champions. And then he reprimands RVD, and he says that Stone Cold is the leader of the Alliance, not Rob Van Dam. And it's so weird because you have guys like Raven and Candy and just whining. And it's those two are really going to be the ones that are going to make RVD the leader, giving advice to Canyon and Raven.
I love that this plays into Austin's paranoia, because at Unforgiven, that whole theme and the faces that they had on the banners and stuff was him being freaking paranoid. He's thinking everybody's out to get him, and he's got to make sure everyone knows he's in charge, not RVD. And it's just, I thought it was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And fans love RVD. There's at this point, it's clear as day that this guy is going to go into the main event at some point in the near future. It just got to happen.
Yeah, it does. So, like I said, we have Booker T, Rob Van Dam, and Test versus Chris Jericho and Undertaker and Kane is 6-man tag. Booker and Y2J start. Flying forearm to Booker, tag to Taker, then back to Jericho, tag to Test, missile drop kick to Test, leg drop in old school to Test, sidewalk slam by Kane, and a flying clothesline, low blow by RVD to Kane, rolling thunder to Kane, suplex to Test, Kane slams RVD, tag to Taker, big boot to RVD, kick to Taker's face, spinning heel kick to Booker by RVD by accident, big boot to Kane, last ride to Test, walls of Jericho to Booker T. RVD kicks Jericho and rolls him up for the win. For this matchup, I went 2 1/4. I found the finish a little weird that it's just a kick to the face, and that's what knocks out Chris Jericho. It's like you really couldn't get that 5-star frog splash in for the win. So for me, it was a fun, fast-paced match. I went 2 1/4 on it. It was all right.
I did 2 out of 5. I thought it was a solid match. Of course, everyone got their spots in except for RVD with his finisher. I like that Kane and Taker came out as a team, but Booker T and Test didn't, which kind of shows you the unity there. I also want to point out, and I'm not trying to dog on Test, but I also want to point out, look at who's in this. What is this? The second match on the card on a Monday Night Raw. Like, there's some, Hall of Famers, some bona fide legends here that we're seeing just on the second match. Like, holy crap, the roster was just was stacked. Taker hitting the last ride on Test, I thought was impressive. I didn't think he was going to be able to do it, but he did. Test is a big dude. Like, everyone can see he's a big guy, but you really don't know he's big unless, like, you see him in real life, and he's a big dude. Like, he's a big, powerful guy. And I think you were right in saying it was weird that RVD just kicks Jericho and gets the win. Jericho didn't even get into the match. Like, he was barely in there, and I think he was only in there at the end to eat the pin. And as soon as he got pinned, I think it was the right move for RVD to get the pin. I'm fine with that. But I think it's clear why Jericho was in this match. He was going to, Kane and Undertaker were not going to get take a pin from any of these 3 Alliance guys, and not especially after doing jobs last week on SmackDown. But I thought it was a solid match, nothing offensive, and the Alliance getting another win just solidifies them even more as a threat. Yeah.
So we'll see where everyone goes after this matchup, especially Rob Van Dam. He's still reaching for the big gold here.
Going after that brass ring.
Mm-hmm. Then we get a recap of Stephanie McMahon Helmsley getting involved in RVD versus Jericho. We see that whole segment, like she eats a rolling thunder and all this other stuff.
Gets a forearm by Jericho, gets put in the walls of Jericho, and she got beat up.
Yeah, you see like the Alliance members, attending to her, and the funniest line was like, "Hugh, go make sure that he found the water." It's like, I don't even know where he went. Like, Hugh Morris did not know what to do in this segment.
Just all the WCW geeks and ECW geeks just fawning over her. Oh man, it was nuts.
That's why I feel bad for Mike and Hugh. It's like these guys have talent and you don't know how to utilize them. Yeah, so and then Mike Awesome is talking to RVD. He's like, I'm gonna take your words and I'm gonna get back at Spike. And RVD's like, oh, you show him, Mike. And then Shane McMahon talks to RVD about Steph. RVD says he didn't want Steph down there in the first place. Shane says RVD is not the leader of the Alliance. And don't do any favors for me, Rob. And it's like, okay, but I still want you down at the ring anyway.
Yeah.
And then Lillian Garcia interviews Tori Wilson when Stacy attacks both of them. That was a little bit of a weird segment because then Lillian Garcia starts talking in Spanish and stuff.
Yeah, like she goes off on You're like, what the hell is this, man? What is she saying?
And now we have our first world title match. Main event of the night is the handicap WCW title table match. The Dudley Boys versus The Rock. A double clothesline to the Dudley Boys. Both go into the announcers table. Bubba accidentally clotheslines Devon. Baseball slide into Bubba. What's up bomb to The Rock. Reverse 3D to The Rock. Neckbreaker by Bubba. Devon pulls the table out of the way. Samoan drop to Bubba. DDT to Bubba. Rock bottom to Devon. Shane Spinebusters The Rock through a table. And then Charles Robinson tries to give the WCW belt to the Dudley Boys. Mike Chioda then comes out. He shoves Charles Robinson. And then The Rock gives the rock bottom to Bubba Ray Dudley into a table for the win. For this matchup, I went 2.5. It was good. It was a good match. A little bit sloppy towards the end, especially since the bell never rings. They're just like, "Oh, here's your title," and then Mike Chioda comes out and he punches Charles Robinson. So a little bit sloppy towards the end, but then we see The Rock get the win. I went 2.5. It was an all right match for it wasn't anything too exciting except for The Rock winning and overcoming the odds. But other than that, again, it's a solid 2.5. Yeah.
I give it a 3 out of 5. I thought it was a good match, and I like that it wasn't one-sided to either Rock or Dudley's. And they worked well together, like you said, until about the end it got a little sloppy. I like when The Rock came out, he just dropped the belt and he ran right into the ring. No messing around, no posing. He's there to fight. He took it seriously. And I also there was I think The Rock hit Bubba or something, and Bubba slid over the announcer's table. He just a slip and slide right over the table. Yeah. I think he just took a punch or something. And another one I liked was the Mike Chioda. Like you said, he smacked down Charles Robinson, and I thought that was a great way to end the match with the WWF referee coming down and looking out for, the WWF guy. And it really presented, it gives you, because the Alliance was supposed to be bad guys. But if you're a WCW fan, they're not. Right? So it's not like there's crooked referees. They're just referees working for their side. Yeah. They're I'm not a bad guy. I'm just doing my job because I'm in the Alliance. So I thought it was good. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It's not gonna win any awards or anything, but I didn't get bored. I didn't want to turn it off, and I didn't sit there and go, "Oh God, this has got to end." And it only went 8 minutes, so it's not going to offend anybody to watch it.
No. And now we have another self-motivation video by Diamond Dallas Page. I don't pay attention to any of these. This is a shameful, shame on you, Vince and WWF writers. I think he was hurt at this time, and they were like, you need to go back and retrain. And DDP was like, I'm Diamond Dallas Page. I don't think I need to retrain. And then they give him the self-motivating video, oh, this is bad, Jeremy.
Yeah, this is a precursor to the DDP yoga, so at least he got that right. But that wouldn't come for another 10 years. This is, I remember I didn't see it for this episode because they didn't do it, but I think it was maybe an episode or two before. I can vividly remember the camera's just on his smiling face for an inordinate amount of time, just an uncomfortable amount of time with him not moving or blinking. And then he starts, at one point, I'm like, is the video messed up? And then he starts talking. I'm like, oh, my God. This thing, they wasted this guy. I mean, he came in, even at the end of WCW, he was still hot. All the stuff they did to him, he was still hot. He comes in with this stupid stalker gimmick. He gets destroyed by The Undertaker, who I don't personally care for The Undertaker, but he had this whole, it's WCW, I'm not going to fucking help them mentality. And he treated everyone like shit for the longest time. And they never got a clue with this man. Even when they gave him the European belt the following year, they never had a clue with this guy. And this would effectively be the last run of his career. He wouldn't really wrestle after he leaves the WWE again. I don't believe he has another match. This was it.
Oh, yeah. Well, not in the WWE, but I mean, like, he has like a TNA run for a little bit, and then it's like, I can just sit down, not do anything. I don't need to be wrestling anymore.
He definitely, for being such a late starter, he had a really good run. And for all he's done with the DDP yoga, giving back, like, essentially saved Jake Roberts' life.
And Scott Hall's too.
Yeah, he's earned all the anything he's been given and accolades he's gotten. He's definitely earned it.
Yeah. So now we have our mixed tag match is Tajiri and Tori Wilson versus Taz and Stacy Keibler. It's a return matchup from last Monday on Raw when it was just Taz versus Tajiri. Punches by Taz, kicks to Taz. Tajiri kicks Stacy in the butt. Cat fight by the ladies. Handspring elbow by Tori. Ivory then comes in, DDTs Tori, and Stacy gets the pin. For this matchup, I went a half a star. It's bad. Like, Taz and Tajiri are fine, but Tori versus Stacy is the bad part. That handspring elbow was botched and over-rotated. I gave it a half a star. This matchup was bad, Jeremy.
Yeah, I gave it a 0.5 out of 5. I mean, okay. Alliance versus Alliance is stupid. There's no reason for these guys to be infighting. Arguments are one thing, but to go out and have matches makes zero sense. Just absolutely none. The finish was stupid. The whole match was a waste of 2:21 is all they went. Thank God it was that short. It was a waste of Taz, who's been wasted since he arrived. It's a waste of Tajiri, who's almost always awesome. I mean, that tarantula is still cool. Even in 2024, it's still a badass move. Taz looks like he'd rather be anywhere else but here, in all honesty. I'm glad it was a mixed tag match, and I only say that because if this was Stacy and Tori in a wrestling match, it would have been the longest 2 minutes and 21 seconds of our lives. I think that if you, I don't hate women's wrestling, but Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler had absolutely no wrestling talent. That's not why they were there. They weren't there to be wrestlers. Why put them in a wrestling match? It makes just no sense to me. And for the record, I would have loved to see Taz put Tori Wilson in the Taz mission. That would have been great.
Oh, that would have been bad.
Like Hajime, just choke her out.
Yeah. And now we have another fax from Austin to Paul. Paul says that Austin doesn't appreciate JR's comments. Austin says that he is not a bully. He says he will stomp a mud hole in JR. I thought this was funny. The only problem I had with it is that, and I don't mind he was complaining about Ross's commentary, but the crowd can't hear what Ross says, so they don't know. They're like, okay, I guess Ross is saying something bad. Well, that's kind of dumb that we, like, you don't, obviously you're not going to have the commentary on the house mic, but you could at least have Ross say something over the mic where the whole crowd can hear it instead of just the TV audience. No, I put another fax from the anonymous. I mean Austin, because that's where we were at this point. Yeah, it was kind of like over the edge. Not to bring up a bad point, but it's like over the edge. 1999. No one in the crowd knew that Owen passed away. Only the pay-per-view audience did. I mean, only the watchers on TV.
It also reminded me of the Hogan Warrior feud in WCW when Hogan could see Warrior in the mirror, but nobody else could. Well, the audience, the home audience could, but nobody else in the room could. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. This is pointless.
Yeah. So then Ivory is in Commissioner Regal's office. She's getting yelled at for interfering. Lance Storm then says Regal is harassing Ivory. Regal challenges Lance to a match. Then Christian comes to the ring.
Before we go to Christian, I just want to point out Regal or Ivory tries to use some sexual innuendo on Regal. He calls her a troll. Just straight up, get out of my office, you troll.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Oh, jeez, yeah, but like Ivory was a very seductive woman.
By the way, I want to mention, I love Christian's music at this point. The Christian at Last, You're on Your Own, phenomenal, just great.
Oh, it's especially the pyro too. Like,
yeah, oh man,
from the ceiling. Yeah, so Christian comes to the ring. You know, he says he beat Chris Jericho and Bradshaw for the to retain his Intercontinental title. The problem is the Jericho one was a DQ, and Bradshaw ended up being a no contest. So really great start to your run there, Christian.
I thought it was odd that okay, he defended against Jericho. That's fine, makes sense. And then he's like, and Bradshaw, and I'm like, and Bradshaw? That doesn't make no sense.
Well, that's because he went to the APA for protection. Yeah. They denied him. So it's like, well, I'm going to challenge you now. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, X-Pac comes out.
Out of nowhere.
He says the fans turned on him as well. X-Pac calls the fans losers. And then Edge comes out, says X-Pac makes the fans puke, and then, you know, says 1990 he called, and they want him out too, and they're tired of him. Says feel free to join us in 2001.
Tells them to look into character development too. Like, ooh.
Yeah. Edge asks the fans why they hate Christian, and then Albert attacks Edge from behind, a spinning heel kick to Edge, and then the APA come out and they cleared the ring. We haven't seen Farouk in a while, so it was good that both members came out, because I guess Farouk was dealing with some nagging injuries, because Bradshaw's been on his own.
Yeah, I like that when X-Pac came out, he was playing that like the lame sidekick. He's like, they're all losers and we're winners. Like, he's that little brother that, when the Big Brothers are like, you're not going to do that, and he's like, yeah, he's got to get that little jab in. I missed the X Factor music with Uncle Cracker. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. I love that song. He didn't come out, at least on the network, he didn't come out to it. I don't know if he was still rocking it back then. And then I thought that, was it Christian says Baton Rouge? He's like, he makes fun of him for being French and smelly. Like, yes. That's it. That's what you got, French and smelly. Like, it's so perfect. He's such a geek. It's great.
Mm-hmm. And now we have a matchup. It's Lance Storm versus William Regal. Drop kick to Regal. Leg drop to Regal. Regal then tosses Lance to the outside. Lance goes into the apron. Then the Regal stretch for the win. I went a half a star. This is really nothing. It's just showing who's boss around here, and that's Regal. So Regal gets the win. I went a half a star.
I went a 0 out of 5. It was a dud. To me, it was just an angle. It went a minute 35, like you said, and the Austin sends in a fax where he demanded Regal strip Kurt Angle of the belt, make him #1 contender. So Regal punches Heyman in the face. I thought that was great. He does get a bloody nose for his troubles. And Lance Storm, I think, is a great wrestler, but he has the personality of a piece of drywall. This was just, the right guy won, but it was just like, it was just for an angle. So I don't think you can get really offended by it, because it is just an angle. I'm glad it only went a minute and 35. Any longer would have been a bad idea.
Yep, it probably would have been, and they were time constrained. But like you said, Paul Heyman gets another fax, and Regal's like, what in the hell is this? Paul says Stone Cold tells Regal that he should strip the WWF title off of Kurt, or should make Stone Cold the #1 contender. Regal slaps the hell out of Heyman, and I thought actually that Regal broke the fax machine too. I was waiting for him just to slam down the fax machine.
That would have been great.
Yeah. And then we have a recap of Nydia and Maven winning Tough Enough. Did you watch Tough Enough, Jeremy?
Yes, I watched the first season of Tough Enough, and I wanted Josh Matthews to win. And I thought it was it's funny now in hindsight how Josh Matthews had a much bigger, not huge, but a much bigger and longer career than Maven did. Maven had a moment or two here and there, but he really wouldn't have a lot going for himself until just recently on YouTube, started making YouTube videos, and now he's, becoming popular again. Nydia didn't seem to do much besides working with Jamie Noble. I don't even know if she's still around anymore. But, yeah, I watched Tough Enough.
Make an appearance here or there.
I watched Tough Enough. I watched on MTV. I thought it was good. I liked the theme song that they used to play at the end of each episode. And what was it? There's that one episode where Triple H is in there and he's working them over and he's like, "Hey, just so you know, your balls are sticking out, man. You might want to fix that."
Yeah. Don't waste our effing time.
Yeah. I thought that was great.
Yeah, there was that dude Jason who had like almost like a quad, like his quads were like almost about to tear like Triple H's too.
Was it that one kid? That's the season where that one kid gets just viciously stomped in the face by Bob Holly, wasn't it?
No, that's Tough Enough 3. That's Matt Capitelli.
That's it. Yeah.
That's when John Morrison, who would make a name for himself, actually won Tough Enough. And I didn't even realize that until I saw it years later. I was like, wait a minute, it's the same guy? It's like sort of a tag team called Eminem, and he won Tough Enough? Yeah, I always thought that Matt Capitelli got robbed, not because of Bob Holly, but just because of like the injuries. It's like, man, he could have really shown something, and like it just went south for him, like with all of his like tumors and whatnot, and they end up dying from his like brain cancer too, which really, really sucked. Chris Nowinski, that whole CTE, like him getting his like nose and concussions in 2003, and look where he is now, being the proprietor of concussion syndromes.
I think for like it sucks that his career got cut drastically short because he didn't win Tough Enough, but he had a good heel gimmick going for him. And I think ultimately that he wasn't meant to be a wrestler, man. He was meant to do what he's doing now and bring CTE up and really do a lot of work because it's changed the industry and for the better. I don't care what anyone says. I go back and watch this old stuff now and I see unprotected chair shots. I wince, dude. I don't like it. And back in the day, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Now I'm just like, oh my God. This guy, thank God this guy got hurt, because without him, God only knows where we would be, and a lot of guys would have either had their careers cut even shorter or probably be dead by now.
Mm-hmm. So you have to think that The Miz, who doesn't win Tough Enough, has the best career ever.
Yeah, he made the most out of it. And you know what's funny is I remember seeing him on The Real World. That's where I saw him first. And he was doing, he had a little title belt and everything. And I'm like, this guy's a fucking geek. And then years later, he's on that $1 Million Tough Stuff. I'm like, all right, he's going to make it. And sure enough, he did.
I was watching SmackDown at my friend's house. He goes, isn't that the guy from The Real World? I was like, what are you talking about, man? I was like, I just know him as The Miz or Mike Mizanin. And he goes, no, that's the guy from The Real World who like wanted to be a wrestler. It's like, now he is a wrestler, man.
And you know what? Not to go up on a little tangent about The Miz, but his career, he did it the right way, man. He won the tag, he won the singles, he won the big one. Just like Hart, Perfect, all the old school guys. He rose up the ranks the right way. He didn't just come in and get handed the belt. It was good. I liked his career.
Yeah. So then Taz gives Maven his props for winning Tough Enough, and he's going to have a match on SmackDown. Then Taz shows out Maven and says he will fight. Maven is going to fight Taz.
But you know what was funny was that he interviews him. I'm like, okay, that's a precursor to what's going to happen. Maybe it'll be an audition. And then he goes, you're going to face the next guy to walk through that door, and points in front of him and then attacks him from behind. It's like, you're a jerk and a perfect heel.
So then Shane is backstage with Rob Van Dam, says RVD not to help him win. But again, RVD comes out with Shane as well. As we get to this matchup, it's Shane McMahon versus Kurt Angle for the WWF title. punches to Shane, clothesline by Kurt. Kurt punches RVD, a belly-to-belly by Kurt to Shane. Shane bounces Kurt off the rope, clothesline off the rope to Kurt. Shane goes to work on Kurt's neck breaker by Shane, DDT by Shane, diving elbow to Kurt for a 2 count, German suplexes to Shane, belly-to-belly suplex on the outside to Shane, RVD frog splashes Kurt off the apron.
Which
Kurt
was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. Kurt drop kicks RVD, spine buster, and an ankle lock to Shane for the win. For this matchup, I went 2 3/4. It was good. It was fun. A little interference from Rob Van Dam, the frog splash, and the clothesline off the rope from Shane with the elbow. Shane always puts on great matches with guys like Kurt Angle and the big guys too. Like Shane's tough.
I like that Shane. He didn't get out wrestled necessarily. He kept up with Kurt as much as you would expect him to. They had that great street fight, which is still awesome today. I like that when he dropped the elbow on Kurt, he rolled over because his ribs were hurt. And if you watch it, because I rewound it and watched it, and I think they even show a replay of it, when he lands, Kurt's head went right into his ribs. So that had to be legitimate. I don't think that was kayfabe at all. I think that was real. And I thought RVD, he hit his frog splash off the apron. I called it the 2-star frog splash because he didn't get the height, So I thought that was nice. And I thought Shane hit a very nice float over DDT, which was really, really good. Angle getting the ankle lock and winning almost instantly, the right move. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think it was a fun title match. And it went by quick. It was only 7:48. RVD was out there, played his part perfectly. Didn't get involved a lot. He could have done a lot more, but he didn't, which I'm glad. But I don't think there was any doubt who's going to win. But I don't think that hurts the match. I really don't. I know a lot of people be like, well, you kind of knew. Like, yeah, but I don't think it hurts it. I think it was a solid match.
Yeah, so Kurt Angle outwits another one of Shane McMahon's schemes or alliance schemes here. And, so what'd you think of the overall show? It was good, right?
I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was a good show, nothing groundbreaking, but we don't always need that, The only downside I thought was Taz and Tori against
Tajiri
and Stacey.
Taz and Stacey. Yes, Taz and Stacey versus
See, I'm
Tajiri.
already trying to forget that match. But I will tell you this. No boring promos. Every promo was good. I didn't want to fast forward, and I didn't get bored. I watched it all in one sitting. And I don't want to rag on anything today, but I'm not used to being able to just sit down, watch it, and finish it and go, that was good. I didn't get tired. I didn't fall asleep. It was quick, and maybe without all the commercials, that's why it was really quick. But it was great. It was awesome. It was a good, solid show. Moved everything along as it should.
Yeah, so we're going to deep dive into our SmackDown episode here. This is SmackDown October 4th, 2001. We're in Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile, Alabama. I've been there a few times, traveling through. It's a nice town.
Holly. Yep.
What did you say, home of Hardcore Holly?
Yeah, he's from Mobile, Alabama. Yep.
Oh, well, I guess that makes sense with the race car driving. I always remember. I mean, I know it's Hardcore Holly, but I remember it was Sparky Plug.
Yeah. So here's what I found interesting, that Jim Ross is on commentary again with Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I was like, do they not think Michael Cole could do a good job for the heaviness of this SmackDown episode? Like they really need a strong voice to promote this Rob Van Dam match that we're gonna have tonight. I don't understand why they had Jim Ross do Michael Cole's duties here tonight.
I didn't get it either, because it's not like they were in the same town. And I'll be honest with you, I like Michael Cole as an announcer during this and his first initial run on SmackDown. It's later Cole, like 2010 Cole, that gets on my nerves, and I can't stand him even now. But back in the day, I thought he was great. So I think maybe you're onto something. because I think they just said that Cole was away, but I think you're on to something like maybe they need a JR to continue to push this with how serious everything was going to be. And I also want to mention, I forgot to mention this about Raw. No Austin. We got the faxes, but we never saw him. And I expected him to come out at the end, and he didn't. So it was kind of shocking.
Yeah, and there's going to be no Stone Cold here tonight, and no Stephanie McMahon for a week as well.
Which I'm happy about. I mean, she's easy on the eyes back then, but I'm also happy about it because I don't like her voice.
They were really playing off that Steph had legit injuries from Chris Jericho. So Shane McMahon comes out with the Alliance. I want to point things out that the Alliance does seem that it's like smaller than I remember it. I think that's because it's missing it's missing DDP and it's missing Billy Kidman. I haven't seen Billy Kidman in a while as well, and it's missing Rhino too. So I don't know what was going on with Kidman and Rhino, but they're not out there, and we know where DDP is too. So that's three main players of the Alliance. It's like, this is really a small little band group here.
Yeah, and I think the biggest name they had was probably Booker T. I mean, Taz, I wouldn't call him a big name anymore, but you're right. It was small, and in all honesty, it just looked like a bunch of geeks and Booker T and Shane McMahon. And I think it hurt not having Kidman. Rhino's not out there. They didn't have Stephanie out there, which I think hurt it. But I get it. I'm fine with it. But yeah, you're right. It did look a lot smaller than I remember it being.
Yeah, and if you put Booker T and
Tajiri wasn't out there, was he?
No, he's not. He's not with the Alliance. Tajiri is not.
So I thought, well, why was he teaming with Tori Wilson, who's in the Alliance?
Oh, because she jumped to the WWF.
Oh my
bad.
God. Yeah. They didn't say that on Raw, and I didn't. I probably should have watched last week as well, but okay.
Yep. There was one more thing I was gonna say too. Yeah. So just like DDP, besides Booker T and DDP, you have Kanyon, who's probably the most recognizable WCW guy there.
Yeah.
And it's Kanyon, yeah, and that's a really below third place spot there. People have said that too. So Shane comes out. Shane says Austin wants his rematch. Shane says it's the right thing to do. Shane says there's a rematch clause. Shane demands Regal to grant him the rematch. Regal comes out to the ring. Regal says Shane is right. However, Stone Cold left the WWF, and his contract is voided since it was signed under the WWF policy. Since it's the Alliance policy, there's no rematch clauses. Shane has a proposal for Regal. It's Kurt Angle versus one member of the Alliance. If the Alliance wins, Stone Cold gets his rematch on Raw versus Kurt Angle for the WWF title. If Kurt Angle wins, he gets to face The Rock title for the WCW title. So Kurt Angle has everything to gain and nothing to lose here. Kurt Angle comes out and says that he enjoyed being Shane on Raw, and Kurt Angle accepts Shane's offer here. So it sounds like they were foreshadowing what Vengeance is going to become here tonight, and we'll see it also during the Rock and Kurt Angle's backstage segment here as well.
I thought it was interesting because, like I had said at the top of the show, I didn't get to watch SmackDown, so this was all fresh for me. I knew about it, but it was all fresh watching it. I thought it was so Shane comes out and says, he's got to return. Austin's got to return a match on his contract. I'm like, so then why asking Regal? Just be like, I got the contract. It's there. It's done. But I did they explained that why Regal can stop this, which I thought was good because I didn't see that one coming. I'm like, that's good. He's got you there. Like you said, they're kind of foreshadowing Vengeance. I thought it was interesting, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, you think there would be more hype? It's like they're saying it could happen, but they're not it's not. They're not making it as monumentous as it could be. But I do like that Angle comes out. He's like, "It's on. You got your match." He's a fighting champion, and Austin is still a horse's ass, which I thought was great.
I like Shane McMahon's promo here, like Shane's words. He was very convincing. He's like, Shane, I mean, Kurt, you have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Even if you lose, you can still beat Austin and retain your title. If you win, you could have all the golds. And Kurt was like, I'm in, bro. I can't wait. Even if I lose, I can still kick Austin's ass again and make him tap out.
The reason why it was so good, and you're right, the reason why it was so good is because it's smart. He's not trying to like trick him into anything. He's not trying to like threaten or force him. He's just like, hey man, here's the truth. I'm not embellishing anything. I don't need to. Here's what could happen. And it's true. All of it was true, which made it even better.
Yep. Now we have a 6-man tag match. This is from what happened on Monday Night Raw. Is Christian and they still call themselves X Factor versus Edge and the APA. And X Factor is pretty much done ever since Justin Credible went to the Alliance.
Yeah.
X-Pac is still a double champion.
Yeah, isn't that strange?
Yes.
That's just strange to me.
Yeah, you would have thought that Kidman would have won the WCW title back from him already. The Cruiserweight title.
I will say this. Watching Farouk and Bradshaw beating up X-Pac may be my new favorite pastime.
Yeah.
You're going to have to edit that one. Let me repeat that line. You could edit that one out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, watching the secret word.
Watching Farouk and Bradshaw beating up X-Pac may be my new favorite pastime. They're just dominating this poor guy left and right, and it was awesome.
Yeah. We have a heel kick. So X-Pac and Farouk start. Backbreaker to X-Pac. Heel kick to Farouk. Power slam to X-Pac. A neckbreaker by Bradshaw. Albert scissor kicks Bradshaw. Vertical suplex by Albert. Backdrop by Bradshaw. Tag to Edge and X-Pac. Albert goes into X-Pac. Edge spears Christian. And then a boot to X-Pac as well. And then Edge-o-matic to Albert for the win. I went 2 stars on this one. It was fun. It was fast-paced. Very, very interesting at the end that Albert eats the pin.
I gave it a 2 out of 5 like you. It's not terrible. Went by quick. It was over in 4:05. I like that Edge was kind of chasing Christian. Like every time he'd get in the ring, Christian would get out, And then when he finally got him, he got him in the spear, which was perfect. Bradshaw playing the face in peril was kind of odd to me because I didn't really. You would think it would be like X-Pac, and Albert eating the pin. I was like, all right, but at least Albert, he looked good against the APA, like he could match power for power with Farouk and Bradshaw. So he may have ate the pin, but I think he got a little shine out of this. Christian playing chicken shit heel was great. Fun little match. And again, we're seeing Edge, we're seeing Christian, we're seeing these big names, and it's the first match of the night. So it's like, holy crap, we were spoiled back then.
Mm-hmm. Hurricane and Molly arrive in a tape segment. Coach asks why Molly dumped Spike. Molly says her and Spike were going nowhere. It was time to dump a loser for a winner. And now Molly is now Mighty Molly.
You know what I thought was funny was he asked why Molly dumped Spike, and Molly goes, I didn't dump Spike. And then goes on to say, I just kind of dumped him because he was a 0. And like, you just said you didn't dump him.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Did the Hurricycle here, was it the same one from Raw? Because I thought it looked different from the one they had on Raw.
Oh, I think it was different because you'd have like the bigger side piece in it.
Like it looked like it was more finished. Like at first maybe they didn't have it finished, and this other one, it looks more legit. Like I thought it was a different bike.
Mm-hmm. I think it might have been like, the small side piece and a side like seat, and now they have like this bigger side seat for Molly to sit in.
Mighty Molly.
And he says, quick to the hurricane.
Yeah.
Well, where's the hurricane? Is that in the Alliance locker room too?
And then when he jumps off screen, you can hear him going, whoosh, making a flying sound with his mouth.
I know. That was always the funniest part about the hurricane is that he just did the voices too.
I didn't care for Gregory Helms outside of, I liked it when he was Sugar Shane Helms. Mm-hmm. And then I liked the Hurricane as a good guy and a bad guy. it was great. And I also liked it when he was doing that dual role where he would play the reporter and then change into the Hurricane. I thought that was great too.
So we have a tag team matchup. This also is from Monday Night Raw. It is the Big Show and Spike Dudley versus the Hurricane and Mike Awesome.
These two, Dudley or Spike and Big Show, I'm sorry, they look dumb. They just look dumb dressed as each other. And I totally blocked out that this was even a team. I somehow wiped this from my memory like freaking Minority Report or something. This was insane to me.
Oh, yeah. And, they're going to do, a lot of things with the Big Show, too. Spike Dudley's not the last of Big Show tag team partners here.
Yeah. The Hurricane's music... Yeah, the Hurricanes music on the network, which I believe it was just changed for the network, was terrible. But because the original was, I thought, awesome, was one of his best parts of his gimmick. But on the network, it's just bad now.
Oh yeah, because I don't think he has the full professional music. I think he still has that Teenage Alliance music and
yeah.
I don't think
he funky track or something like that.
Yeah, it's bam, 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 bam. It's not the dun 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 bum. It's not that yet. I think he uses it maybe next week on Raw, probably to be more of a superhero, And I thought it was great that Mike Awesome has TV time here.
Finally, and not just a run in. He gets an actual match.
Mm-hmm. Mike's neckbreaker to Spike, a leg drop by the Hurricane, a clothesline by Mike. Mike slams Spike to the ground. Elbow drop by Mike. Awesome. This is the big dive. Clotheslines by Big Show. Molly dives into Big Show, but he puts her down. A big boot to Hurricane. Shoulder tackle off the top rope by Mike Awesome.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, it was. A power slam to Spike. Show pushes Mike into the ropes, which knocks down the Hurricane. And then a choke slam to Mike. And then Spike Dudley does a dive off of Big Show's shoulders to hit Mike Awesome. For this one, I went 2.5. I thought this was a really great match. And this is where it's I hate you guys because you didn't know how to use Mike Awesome at all.
I went 2 out of 5 strictly because I thought it was not a terrible match. But again, Awesome just wasted here. I do like that Spike jumped off Big Show. It kind of reminded me of when Sean would do the splash. I mean, and sometimes he would jump off Diesel's shoulders. And I thought that was a nice little thing. But yeah, Awesome just eating the pin here. I get why Hurricane didn't, because they're trying to establish his character, and he is the European champion. But I would have rather seen, I hate to say this because I don't particularly care for him, but I would have rather seen a count out or something like that instead of Awesome eating the pin. Again, he's just wasted here. And he had an awesome move. That shoulder block from the top rope was awesome. And then he gets pinned by Spike. At least have Big Show pin him if you're going to pin him. But it only went, what did it go, 408, so it's not too offensive.
No. Shane and the Alliance are backstage and all the votes are in. Can we get a Maven package of highlighting all of his training from Tough Enough? And then The Rock and Kurt Angle are backstage. Kurt informs Rock that if he wins, he will face The Rock on Raw for the WCW title. Rock likes the idea. Rock says if it does happen, he wants it to be title for title, and Kurt agrees. So it looks like they were, again, here they are foreshadowing what would become at Vengeance, title for title and double world champion. It would have been awesome to see which, like, both sides of it. Stone Cold versus Kurt Angle again, or we could have The Rock versus Kurt Angle for double world champions, Jeremy.
That would have been awesome. But like I said earlier, like they just didn't play up how serious this was. Like, this is a big deal. Like, this is because the WCW, they traced their title back to 1904, correct?
Yeah, it's like Pat O'Connell.
Yeah, like with the first guys. So for them to just go, wow, this is going to be a big match. Like, no, man, this is a monumental match. Like, this is huge. Like, you guys aren't doing this justice.
I think because they knew, like, what was going to happen, like, in like, the storyline thing. It's like, oh, this could happen, but it's like, we know it really is going to happen.
There is one thing I want to say about the Maven video package. It was clear watching this video, this guy wasn't going to get over here. He needed to go away and come back already established, because coming in the way he did, you just knew this guy was just not going to get a serious chance. Like, that's just the vibe. Maybe I'm the only one that got the vibe off that video, but watching it, I'm just like, this dude never had a chance. Like, he just never had it. It's almost hokey the way that the video plays out. But I'm sure they thought they were doing him a favor.
I thought Daniel Puder had a chance as well, and it was like, well, we all know what happened there too.
Yeah, and you know what? I watched something about that a couple weeks ago, I think on Woke Culture or something, and I thought, he carried himself foolishly, but had somebody pulled this man aside and said, look, man, here's how you carry yourself, that dude could have been something. Instead, they let him make a mistake, they didn't try to correct it, and they bullied him out. That's stupid.
Yeah.
That was a waste of money and time. Like, that, if I was Vince, I would have been mad. I would be like, you guys wasted my money and time by burying this guy because nobody wanted to take him under their wing and show him the ropes and show him how to be. Instead of building him up, you guys just flushed him out. That's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress.
Yeah. So we're backstage with the Alliance, and Shane says that RVD wins the vote. Booker T is not happy about that, but Rob Van Dam is getting the nod here for the Alliance here, and wouldn't you know it, we're at the match already. Yes, it's Rob Van Dam versus Kurt Angle. If Rob Van Dam wins, Stone Cold gets his WWF title match. If Kurt Angle wins, it is title on Raw versus The Rock. So
you could tell that the way Shane said RBD won, you could tell it was like in quotes. He was lying, because everybody's like, wait a minute, what? And before when they were talking about doing it, he's like, we're gonna vote. Everybody, like, Bubba's like, you vote for me, I'll vote for you, and Booker's like, Tess, you vote for me, and then to have RVD win it, I'm like, all right. I mean, it makes sense, but you could just tell Shane was lying. And like you said, we're already at the main event. Man, this show is just flying by.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's not it's like the top hour main event. Like, we're hitting the 9 p.m. stride, because at 9:45 we have to have a 6-man tag match with referee involvement again. Not since the Invasion angle. Since the Invasion pay-per-view, if he had referees fight.
Which I don't know if that was ever a good idea or a bad idea, but
yeah. It was a bad idea. Both men try to roll up one another. Bridge suplex by Angle. Belly to belly by Angle. RVD goes to the outside. Angle slams RVD into the table. Angle goes into the steps. RVD does a jump kick to the back of Angle. Sidekick leap by RVD. Kurt counters a Rolling Thunder into an ankle lock. RVD escapes. Leg drop to Angle's next. German suplex. Release German suplex by Kurt Angle and a DDT to RVD. RVD counters an Angle slam. RVD misses the 5-star frog splash. Angle slam to RVD. Nick Patrick knocks Earl Hebner out. Mike Chioda comes to Mike Chioda chases Nick Patrick away. RVD taps the ankle lock, but the referee is knocked out. Shane hits Kurt Angle with a chair, and RVD pins Kurt. For this matchup, I went 2 3/4. Again, he's not getting a 5-star frog splash, and he needs help from Shane McMahon. And just for Shane to get his way, that Angle now has to face Austin. And RVD just seems like he was like a pawn in this scheme here, because again, he doesn't get a finish and he just pins him. So RVD helps Austin, but it's really Shane McMahon getting his way. So I went 2 3/4 here.
I did a 3 out of 5. I thought it was a great match. RVD busted Angle's lip open, I think, with the roundhouse kick that he caught him with. I know I don't care for interference that leads to a finish. I understood it here, and I just got to say that chair shot that Shane gave, that was fucking awesome. It came out of nowhere. I love the jumping. He jumps, he swings, he hits. He does like a spin in the opposite direction, lands, and gets right out of the ring. It takes all of 3 seconds. It's incredibly smooth. It's like the kid knew exactly what he was doing, and he does that chair shot a couple of times throughout his career, and it just came out of nowhere. But again, I think it was an unprotected chair shot, so I'm like, ugh. But man, it looked cool when he did it. This was, even though it was, RVD didn't use his finisher, he did get a pin over the WWF champion, so it was definitely a big win, a big step in the right direction for him. But no, you're right. He was a pawn. Everything is for, like I like to say, the greater good. It's just, he's just a pawn he's just a spoke in the wheel right now.
Yeah. And then the Alliance comes out. They celebrated RVD's win.
Like he won the title or something, They just came out. They hoisted him up on their shoulders,
Mm-hmm. Now we have our big debut match here. It is it's Taz versus Maven. Taz slaps Maven. Maven kicks him, and then kicks and chops to Maven. Drop kick by Maven. A suplex to Taz. A suplex by Taz, not to Taz. And then the Taz mission for the win. I gave this match, I'm going to give it a 1/4 star. It's not even that. It actually is a dud because it's a squash. It's a 0. Maven only has that drop kick, and that drop kick be his trademark forever. He had no finishers at all. This is just bad. It's a dud.
Yeah, I gave it a 0.5 out of 5. I mean, it is a dud. I'm shocked it went 5.48. I will say this, Maven has probably up there with Randy Orton and Mr. Perfect as the most beautiful drop kick I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's just amazing. It almost looks like he's floating, just gracefully floating and kicking a man in the face with both of his feet. It's just like, if he could have a drop kick, it would be his, and he had that. He had that pretty good, but there was no way Maven was going to win this match. I like that Taz went and raised his hand after the match, but then just beats the hell out of him afterwards. And there was also some very nasty chops that Taz was giving him in the corner in the middle of the match that made me wince. Because the chops just, I don't like. I've never been chopped, and I don't want to be chopped. It sounds horrible to me. But no, this was a dud. It was absolutely a dud.
Yeah, like you said, Taz raises Maven's hand like, "Oh, good job, man. At least you tried." Then he clotheslines Maven afterwards. Kurt is backstage with Coach. Kurt is pissed off, but Kurt is ready for Stone Cold on Raw. So he's ready to fight Austin and beat him again and to retain the WWF title. Tajiri is backstage with Tori as she tries on bikinis. He's like, "Okay, Tajiri, is this bikini okay?" And he's just shaking his head up and down. Yeah,
I mean, he totally is. Tajiri's awesome. They got him perving out in the locker room. Come on, man. And what's worse is that he's he's perving out, but I'm like, dude, she's about to go on national TV and show her bikini. So it's not like you could just wait 30 seconds. You get to, you get to see this. I do want to say that Angle, when he was talking to Coach, and he said, I'm not worried about Austin because I won the gold medals with a broken freaking neck. I love it when he gets that in. I know he does it a lot. I'm sure people are like, ugh, I love that. And then you totally glossed over the awesome Don't Try This at Home video, which is so much better back then than it is now.
Oh,
it was just a phenomenal video that they put together. And I think it was one of the first times they did that. I think they had always, or they had started saying in the late 90s, don't do it at home. But I think this was like where it was real serious, and they're like, come on, guys.
They had please don't try this at home, like from the Superstars. At first it was, in the ring, it's awesome. On the playground, not so awesome. Then they went with, then they did with the wrestlers, like saying, don't try this at home and all this stuff. And then this one is really the first one. And then they go with the bodies have been bruised, all that stuff.
I love how you mentioned they said, don't do this on the playground. It's funny because that's where the majority of us did that, was on the playground. Like I can remember my buddy Joe legitimately, I'm not making this up, tombstone pile drive his brother on the playground. Like his head he spiked him. And like when he got up, his little brother's, his neck is completely red all the way around. I'm like, dude, how is your neck not broken right now? This is crazy.
Oh, yeah. So now we have a match that gets no airtime, but, it's a match. It's Kane versus Booker T. Punches by Booker. Kane tosses Booker. Elbow drop by Kane. And a leg drop. Flying forearm by Booker. Sidewalk slam by Kane. Sidekick by Booker to Kane. Clothesline by Kane. Big boot to Booker. Flying clothesline to Booker. Tess gives Kane a big boot. Scissors kick to Kane for the win. For this matchup, I gave it 2 1/4. It was all right for a match that really gets time, but it's like, this matchup just comes together, like it's thrown together.
I gave it a 2 out of 5. I thought it was a solid win for Booker T. The finish made sense, but what's funny is that this would be a bigger match in like 2 or 3 years. Here it's kind of thrown away. It's only 5:48, so it's not boring. But I thought it was a kind of paint by numbers for Kane. It's just Kane's typical match. But I will say this: I may not personally like Glenn Jacobs, but anytime he comes off the top rope, it's very impressive. Very, very impressive. So solid match here. I think Booker T, like I said, for the Raw review, he's just a solid worker, just a great worker, man. And how they waited so long for him to get the world title is just a total mystery.
Mm-hmm. And then Lillian is back. Well, first the Undertaker comes out to save Kane. So Undertaker's got to come and save the day. And then Lillian Garcia is backstage with the Dudley Boys and Nick Patrick. Bubba Ray Dudley says he can't wait for Stone Cold to come back. Really an awkward interview because Nick Patrick's like, oh yeah, we're gonna win tonight. So really no formal skills from Bubba. So from Nick Patrick, and Bubba really had to come in and like, oh man, we can't wait for Stone Cold to come back.
I love how Bubba's essentially jerking off over Austin coming back, and Patrick is clearly he's not a promo guy. You glossed over DDP again, making an appearance, doing his hippie yoga gimmick, and it's the same as he did today or the Raw before. And
those are the skip segments. Change the channel.
Here's my. I'm gonna read you word for word what I wrote about it. Jesus, how the mighty have fallen. Holy shit.
Oh God, yeah. I was like, I don't need to read these segments every single time, but I appreciate it. Yeah.
Don't neglect the audience here, buddy. You gotta cater to the audience, man.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever saw it. Do you remember that movie, Baby Geniuses?
Oh my God. Yeah, I do.
Like it's the big doll head, and that's what DDP is. In the segments, God, it's bad. All right, so then Regal is backstage. He makes an announcement, says that Kurt Angle versus Stone Cold will happen on Raw for the WWF title, but all Alliance members are barred from ringside. So, very good, powerful promo. Like, do I have your attention? Good. Listen up, because this is how it's going down.
Yeah, I thought it was what I really liked was he's like, because you had mentioned him being an authority figure on Raw, like here finally he's not necessarily just standing up to the Alliance, like he's trying to make sure that they don't have a loophole here, right? He's gonna give them enough rope to hang themselves, which is great.
Yeah. And now we have this bikini matchup.
You thought the DDP yoga stuff was bad. This is
Tori versus Stacy. Tori wins. Stacy chokes Tori with her robe. Nice bikini from Stacy with that blue, and then Tori just wows the audience as well, and Tori wins.
I like that Coachman is the MC. It makes sense because he's utterly useless at this point. Heyman on commentary, I don't know if he caught this, he says, the only woman more attractive than Stacy Keibler, who he fawns over the entire time, is his mom. He said that. He legit said that. I like that they use Sunny's entrance music for them to dance around. And I hate to say this, but I'd rather have seen them wrestle, which I know is just contradicts what I said about them on Raw, but I gave it a 0 out of 5. As dud, stupid, waste of time, and help no.
Yeah, basically, it's not even a match, just a segment. I was like, it's all right, but it's weird. So now we have.
Now wait a minute. Now hold on. You don't gloss over this. Now Stacy and Tori get into it after. And Stacy pimp slaps Coach, who bumps his butt off for it. So I actually revised my grading after this. I revised it to a 0.5 out of 5 for the slap alone. And the jury makes the save, of course, and because Stacy begins choking Tori with her own bathrobe. So at least the segment kind of ended on a high note.
Yeah. So, all right. So now we have The Rock, Chris Jericho, and Mike Chioda. Let me rephrase that. The Rock, Chris Jericho, Mike Chioda versus the Dudley Boys and Nick Patrick.
Now, I will give Nick Patrick some credit because he was initially trained as a wrestler before he became a referee. And I don't think he won any titles, but I know he wrestled for a couple of years. So I'm thinking, okay, he's not going to go toe to toe with anyone, but he shouldn't be too sloppy. He should be okay.
Jericho and Devon start. Flying forearm to Devon. Elbow off the top rope. Hold on. I'm sorry. Elbow off the top rope. Suplex to Devon by Rock. Clothesline to Bubba. Suplex to Bubba by Jericho. Walls to Jericho to Nick Patrick. A one-up bomb to Jericho. Neck breakers by Bubba. Nick Patrick kicks Y2J. A scoop slam by Devon. Flapjack to Y2J. Hurricanrana to Bubba. Patrick hits a bump, hits Y2J, but then Bubba misses what I call the ass dive. I call it the ass dive, yeah. Tag to Rock and Devon, clothesline by Rock, DDT to Bubba, spinebuster to Devon. Earl Hebner tosses Nick Patrick back into the ring. Mike Chioda spears Nick Patrick, clothesline by Bubba to Chioda. A rock bottom to Nick Patrick, and a lion salt by Jericho. Then to add insult to injury, Mike Chioda gives Nick Patrick a people's elbow for the win. For this matchup, I went 2.5.
I gave it a 3 out of 5 because the crowd was so hot through this entire thing. And when Jericho finally made that tag to Rock, who Jericho had his working boots on, I guess to make up for the night before, because Rock wasn't in until the end, and he was the difference maker. But the crowd exploded when The Rock finally came in. I thought the ending was great, even though Kyoto's people's elbow looked like shit. But it made sense to have these two finish the match because the Dudleys just won the belts last week, but then they also lost to Angle on Raw, so they didn't need to be beaten again. And Jericho and Rock obviously don't need to eat a loss, so screw it. Have the referees do it. I thought it was actually a great main event. It only went 10:35, and dude, for me it flew by. It didn't feel like there was no wasted. I thought there was no wasted moments in the match. I thought it was pretty good. I could have used an extra 2 or 3 minutes, but it was good.
Mm-hmm. So now we know that Raw's is set for Stone Cold versus Kurt Angle. You know, I think it would have been great if they ended the segment with Regal making the announcement, like a very. It could have ended that way. Like, this is very important. It's almost like when J.J. Dillon made the announcement. I don't know if it ended Thunder, but it was like, oh, well, on Nitro, it's going to be Hollywood Hogan versus Goldberg.
I think it was. No, you're right. You're partially right because it was. I have just recently watched the Thunders. I've been going through them. He did it like near the end. I think it was like the second he did that, and then there was like the main event. But it was at the very end. So yeah, and I agree. Now that you mention it, I agree because all they did after the main event, they stood tall in the ring, which is fine. But Regal should have came on because had it ended with that would have. Because you're already wanting to see Raw anyway, but that would have put the chef's kiss on the ending of the show and get you hyped.
Yeah, but it's like, well, there's no Alliance members. They can't come in. So is Stone Cold going to be able to do it on his own? Yeah. I mean, they already had you hooked up with the match. It was like, can Stone Cold do it on his own or not? You know,
they built that doubt that without the Alliance, Austin's screwed. You know, so it's going to be a good match.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it from us here, covering the Raw and SmackDown here tonight. But, Jeremy, do you have anything that you want to direct the listeners to and plug for the Place to Be Nation?
Absolutely. I am the CEO of OCP Gaming. We have a kind of an umbrella where we talk about. We have 3 different podcasts. We have the Co-op Show where my partner and I, Petey, cover video game news and reviews. We have the React Show where we review video game movies or TV shows. Right now, we're started season 2 of React, where we're actually doing commentaries on video game movies. We just did the commentary for Double Dragon. And then every week I have Reading Reddit, where I go to Reddit and find a gaming subreddit and answer questions and critique collections and things like that. You can find us at ocpgaming.podbean.com. I'm also on the North-South Connection podcast. You can see me there over on Place to Be Nation, that umbrella. And I'm going to be on the Place to Be Nation Christmas Spectacular, which is coming up. So a lot of stuff going on. It's awesome. And I hope you'll bring me back on Nation Invasion. It's been fun. I want to come back and do this again.
All right, most certainly will, Mr. Nichols. It's funny, no one's ever told me on the recording they want to come back. Usually I just ask them, but it's fun too. No, people do tell me all the time. They're like, yo, bring me back. They're like, I want this one. It's like, so I'm going to give you I'll bring you back, man. Don't you worry.
I would love, if you can do it, I would love to help with Survivor Series. I would love to help with that.
Ooh, okay, all righty. I'll see what I can do, all right, bud?
Awesome. Thanks, boss. I appreciate it.
Yeah. As for me, you can find me mostly on the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed. I have this podcast and Extreme Resurrection, which is, where me and Steve Riddle go through ECW on Sci-Fi from 2006 to 2010. We're wrapping up.
Which I don't mean to cut you off. I like that show because a lot of people don't care for the ECW during that time frame, and I think exploring it is a great idea, and I love it. I enjoy it.
Oh, it was, yeah. Like, it was like the first thing. It was like, I want to contribute something. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm
Something
seeing
that no one else does it, So you found something that is interesting and no one else does, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, like untouched is like the phrase. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna touch something that nobody wants to touch. That's ECW on Sci-Fi, starring the Sandman and a zombie. Yeah, so we're wrapping up 2007, going into 2008. When we came back in September, it seemed like a lot changed from what happened with the Chris Benoit thing and, John Morrison getting suspended. CM Punk wins the ECW title. And then you have the big flop with Big Daddy V.
Oh, God.
And no Marcus Corvan either. Monty Brown's gone. Just a bunch of mismanaged steps of CM Punk's ECW title run. So we'll see how much longer that lasts as we get into 2008. As we're also having the SmackDown superstars coming in as well. So we'll see what happens there. And then on the Place to Be Nation pop feed, I have a podcast called Whatever It Takes with Degrassi pod with John Kesselika, as we are going over Degrassi Next Generation. We're finally at a pivot episode where it's called Friday Night, where Emma and Sean go out on their first date, where their relationship story is going. And then then the next episode, we're introduced to what the cheerleading team's going to be called, the Spirit Squad, as Manny wants to try out for Spirit Squad with Paige, but Emma disagrees with the whole cheerleading thing. So a lot of school special episodes here. I don't know if you watched Degrassi or not, but it's kind of fun.
Degrassi came, it started in the 90s. Didn't it start in the late 90s, the first one?
Yeah, it actually did, the 80s and the 90s, yeah.
I had never heard of Degrassi until about 2006 or 7, and it totally escaped me.
Yeah. So we're going over the Next Generation, season 1, and me and John are going to just keep on going through. It's almost like the Canadian version of 90210, and we're doing the 90210, so Canadian style. Well, that's going to do it from us here. I would like to thank Jeremy Nichols for his coverage of this Raw and SmackDown. Thanks for coming on, Jeremy.
Oh, thanks for having me. I had fun, and I look forward to coming back, man.
Yep. Be prepared as we, the nation, bring the invasion.